Yes, that's right. In person. So now I'd like to invite up our client panel. We're going to be talking about client centricity in practice. Melissa and Waldemar.
I'll ask Henrique permission to invite my other partner that just joined us. Alexandre, please.
Hello, everyone. Onde fica? Okay.
So I just wanted to say thank you again, Waldemar, to accept this invitation to be with us today. I know it's been a busy time for you, for General Mills as well. So we're going to have a very open discussion here because I think this organization is about serving our clients, right? That's our goal, how to serve our clients. So the best example now is to have you here and hear your impressions on what you think about what your expectations are when you hire your legal services, your legal of outside counsels. So being a valuable client to us, because General Mills has been a client of KLA since our inception 21 years ago. And I've personally been involved with the business of General Mills in Brazil, have helped them in all their acquisitions in Brazil and all their day-to-day work. Not just me, but also Henrique and Alexandre. We consider General Mills not only our client, but our partner. So thank you again. And before we start, please tell us a little bit about you, about General Mills' case in Brazil. Okay, thank you.
Very good. Can you hear me well? Okay. Yeah, no, thank you for the invitation. Honored to be here. Honored to be here with you. Honored to be here with such great partners like KLA. So I joined General Mills 14 years ago. At that time, we were, like I am today, doing a lot of transformation in the business. I joined because I saw the value of doing transformation. And at that time, General Mills, we implemented some changes that took us to be 300 employee company, no plants in Brazil at that time. We only had distribution of imported products. One of them, Häagen-Dazs, that we still have today. And at that time, our operation, well, very limited, but we had at that time end in mind, and we wanted to be big in Brazil. It's very important. It was very important for General Mills to establish a very solid, big operation in Brazil, because Brazil is the source of growth for companies like General Mills. And some years later, to be more precise, 4 years later, 4 years after I joined, we acquired a local company called Yoki Alimentos. It's a company that makes basically snacks, seasonings, flours and grains, I would say. Very similar to what General Mills was at the beginning of its more than 150 years history. But it was challenging because that would, at the same time that it would bring a relevant portfolio, capabilities, supply chain capabilities, sales capabilities, strong brands, strong local brands like Yoki and Kitano, that are the two biggest brands we sell in Brazil. It would bring a lot of challenge because the complexity of the organization was much bigger than the one that we used to have. We jumped at that time to what we are today. It's a company with more than 4,000 employees. We have 3 plants. We have nationwide distribution. That nationwide distribution is done on 5 distribution centers, and then 15 transit points where we reach 20,000 points of sales directly and more than 40,000 points of sales indirectly. General Mills Brazil is today the 4th biggest business for General Mills around the globe. First is US, Canada, China, Brazil. So relevant operation. You probably heard about the complexities of operating Brazil. Henrique, Alexandre, and Melissa. Taxes, labor, regulations, corruption, very tough, right? So very tough environment. If you don't have partners that you can trust, I trust, and the headquarter trust, very, very difficult to be successful, right? And we consider our journey in Brazil to be a successful one. And I think KLA, it's a big part of that success. Because if you don't, when we need to manage the tough conditions that we are exposed to, and we need to make the tough decisions, if there is no trust, we are killed, right? So it's very tough. So it's been a fantastic journey. It's been a pleasure. We are running now. I think that the biggest transformation was the acquisition. I'm running at this point the second biggest transformation of the business, very important one. We are preparing General Mills Brazil to be one of the biggest source of profitable growth for General Mills. And we keep relying on this partnership to guarantee we are successful. A couple of other curiosities. So I joined 14 years ago. That's where I met Melissa and the KLA team for the first time. My wife is a lawyer. So she's one of the São Paulo city attorneys. Very big job, very complex job. And she's trying, so she has already convinced my daughter to be a lawyer. And she's trying to convince my son to be a lawyer. So when I told them that I was here with you, they were very proud of me, right? Yeah, they were very proud of me. So thank you again for the invitation. I hope we can chat. I got some questions that just to guarantee that is useful for the discussion, but please feel free to ask anything. If I don't know, I will say I don't know, then I make some research. And then, but please feel free to interact as much as possible.
Thank you so much, Waldemar. I think our friends, they do have questions. I think, Atilio, you had a question, a specific question.
Yeah, so the what I would say is as I started saying, first thing is a firm that we can trust. Second thing I would say expertise, and especially in Brazil, to manage complexity. It's very important for the firm to understand how to navigate that complexity. And I think that a third point is agility. We cannot be on the matters forever. It's I worked, so before I joined General Mills, I worked for Unilever, 9 years. Then I worked at Danone, Mars, all big companies. If we don't have enough speed, local competition really kills us. Because those guys not always run the business in the way that we are required, like other multinationals. Both because they can take more business risks that company like ours are willing to take. I'm talking business decisions, right? But they may also decide to take more risks on legal things that we would never take the risk, right? And that can bring us some lack of agility. But I don't believe that. I think that is an excuse for us. We cannot accept that. We have other means, we have resources, we have good partners that these guys cannot hire, that can allow us to have enough speed to win in the market. So that's why agility, I think, is also very important. And expertise put together with a trust is what is really, really important. I don't know if I answer your question.
Excellent. Pavla, do you have a?
How do you search for trustful partner or legal counsel? Because I appreciate that for you it's important.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine knowing or having an idea how perhaps the environment.
Yeah.
How do you measure trust? How do you know when the partner, the legal counsel is trustful or not?
Yeah. That's more challenge at the beginning of the relationship, right? So today, after so many years, the trust is there, right? I think that, well, first thing is word of mouth and references. I have all kinds of friends in Brazil, right? Really, colleagues, friends, and I know some that I can go that think more aligned to the way I think, to the way that my company decides to operate. So I can go to those guys and ask, so who do you work with? Are these guys really, they know how to operate in a situation where they will face corruption challenge or ways of speeding up things that must be legally and ethically okay. So, and then we can have that kind of discussion. The other thing is, I think one interesting thing that Melissa told me about what you try to build with the association is there is some branding behind, right? So International Lawyers Network, right? So that, if built in a way that is coherent in terms of values shared, profile of the firms that make part of the association all around the globe, and things that she told me that you work to have a coherence, I think that is very, very important, right? Because if it's branding only, you also mentioned branding, I think I didn't touch that point. Branding by itself, fine, but must come along with a lot of coherence. So I didn't mention this, but in these companies that I work at, I always work in marketing. So I try to build a brand builder. And to build a brand, if you don't deliver against what are the expectations of your consumers, in my case, and clients, in your case. Well, I also do clients as well, because I sell to Carrefour, Casino, and etc. But if you don't deliver against that, there will be some noise. And that noise will keep you a part of your clients, right? So very important, that coherence. And if you have one international lawyers network that have too many differences in the way that you operate, it's harder to build what is a global brand. But I know that is also very different from us building the Häagen-Dazs brand. Building the Häagen-Dazs brand requires maybe the ultimate coherence, globally speaking. And today we don't have that. It's almost impossible to have that because we have different consumers around the globe. The different markets we operate around the globe, they have, well, different cultures, things that they value that are different in their ice cream. And of course, there is some flexibility to that. But when it comes to the purpose, to the values, and to some specific strategic items that maybe you have the opportunity to choose, pick, choose together what can be done, that's important to build a branding, right? So that helps a lot, can help a lot on the trust part. Many different types of business try to do that. There are advertising agencies that get together, and because they do, like in a law firm, they do very specific type of work with different types of consumers in each country. The way that things operate for advertising agencies is very specific country by country, like law, right? So they also work to do that. For me, as a marketeer, that is sometimes a very important reference. But it only works if it is coherent and very solid against what it's promised by the global branding that they are trying to make. I don't know if I have answered. Yeah.
Excellent. Going back to the values you mentioned, I think Hernan, you had some points on that.
They can chip in, provide you when you are.
Yeah. So on the day-to-day, I would say, so something that is very important for us is guarantee that the clarity of communication between, of course, ourselves, but also in my case with the headquarters is very clear. It's very hard for me, not a lawyer, to talk to the headquarters about things that are very complex and they require specific language that I don't know how to use. It's very important that the communication happens in a way that is very clear. And sometimes the legal environment combined with the Brazilian way of speaking and expressing, that sometimes it doesn't help, right? Sometimes we speak too much. Sometimes our message is too complex. So when we get together and we are preparing the material that we're going to show, we do spend a lot of time to guarantee it's clear to the headquarters, especially on topics that are very important from a size perspective and from a complexity perspective. So that is one key thing on the day-to-day, on the top of what I was saying about trust. The other thing is that I mentioned before, expertise on the table, and that is important. So when it comes to big law firms, we may get in the hands of more junior people, and that takes out agility, that takes out expertise. When you get to medium high size law firms, one of the biggest advantage is that we can have access full-time to partners, to senior people. That helps a lot. So that is another important thing for the day-to-day, the presence of partners and senior lawyers. So that is the day-to-day. There are other things that I know that you also try to do. Melissa was telling me, and I found some similarities. on other things that are more soft, right? Like trainings, newsletters. She mentioned something that I found interesting. Secondment, lawyer secondment on the company. Yeah, those things can be useful. One thing that I see other companies doing, especially consultants doing, that I find very, very interesting, and is very interesting for both sides, for the firms and also for the customers, is roundtables with CEOs. And basically, so the ones that do that very well, Bain & Company, McKinsey. And they don't spend a lot of money doing those roundtables. Some of them, well, actually, most of them are online. And when they do that in person, they can do that even in their own offices. Where they do spend the money is on the expertise of their teams. And what they do basically on those roundtables is they leverage the expertise of their teams. They write books about a new tool that they are developing, or they are developing a tool, a consulting tool. Sometimes it's a diagnosis tool, sometimes it's a differentiator creation tool. And they use the CEO roundtable to discuss that topic with their specialists. We do, it's very interesting, we do research at the time that we are at the meeting. They send us QR codes, we do votings, and with that, they perfect whatever the tool they are trying to make. It's interesting for me because I'm hearing perspectives of other CEOs and specialists from Bain & Company, for example, on that matter. So it's gain-gain relationship. Great for them, great marketing for them, and great for us that have the opportunity to listen to maybe sometimes the biggest experts on something, or the perspective of other CEOs. So I think that is interesting. I have never seen that happening with law firms. Maybe some interesting idea for you to make. So I try to do combination of day-to-day plus other more soft initiatives. Is that what you were looking for? Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Very good suggestion, Waldemar. Thank you very much. Anthony, go ahead, please.
Hi. In the UK, there've been lots of trends, few interesting trends in big corporates over the last 20 years. First of all, growth of the in-house legal. We have a very big insight. And secondly, artificial intelligence and deployment of AI to solve problems like contract management. And I'm just interested in hearing the table.
Okay. So artificial intelligence, and what is the other one? In-house legal team. Okay. Yeah. So, well, on artificial intelligence, I think we are just starting the discussion in General Mills about it. I know that we have, in July, we will have our Global Officers Forum. And one of the topics that we're going to cover will be that. From what I am reading and talking to my colleagues, better being using it than rejecting it. So first reaction is that. My son, the other day, he was studying for his exams, and we use to search on the internet for exercises for him to do to train for the exam. the day that he was studying, he came showing me that this is the exercise that I asked ChatGPT to prepare for me to study. I like it, two things. He was using artificial intelligence. Second, he was using artificial intelligence the right way, right? Not to solve the exercise, but to prepare exercise for him to study. So I think that we will need to work together on evolve fast on that. So whatever is your partner, your clients, if you can work on that together, I think that will be great. You will develop good artificial intelligence tools, and we as clients will benefit from that. But I don't have much more to say. It's today just my opinion on how to do that. But I think that as far as I know, General Mills, I think we're gonna do that heavily. We have a commitment that we communicated to shareholders that we're gonna be at least in the food industry, the one that use data and analytics better in the market. I bet that we will need to include artificial intelligence on that sentence. So that would be very important. Internal legal team, I have worked on both ways. So Unilever, although they always had partners working, they did have at the time that I was working there, they had a big legal team. Danone and Mars work more similar to General Mills. I believe more on the model that we use in General Mills, which is basically we have a very small legal team that leverages the very strong expertise of our partners. It's so complicated, and the level of operating Brazil is so complicated, and the level of seniority required to guarantee that we circumvent the problems, that we solve things that we need to solve, it would be impossible from a P&L standpoint to have that on our own premise. And I think that is true even for companies that are much bigger than we are. I think it's impossible to do that, but
Good for us.
yeah, good for you. Yeah, good for you. Yeah. Did I answer your?
It's interesting. Is in a lot of UK food, so we have very big in-house.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't sound like it's great. Yeah. Look, I think I'm very biased by fast-moving consumer goods with the margins that we have, with the business models that we have. Maybe for Goldman Sachs, it's totally different. Maybe, right? So the margins they have, the kind of operation they have, maybe they can even develop competitive advantage by having their own legal team that is very well developed. So I don't know. I'm biased from my my view on the industry. I've been forever in fast-moving consumer goods, right? So very biased. But maybe for others can make sense.
Just taking advantage of your background in marketing, I think, Mahi, you have a...
Morning.
Your perspective, how important is a law firm's international ranking And what sorts of views and rankings would you look at when you're hiring?
Yeah, the ranking is somehow funny. They don't have, the rankings don't have a good fame with us. With me especially, because I have a lawyer at home, and what she told me is the rankings are based on how much the law firm is spending on advertising for a determined magazine that makes the ranking, right? So that is, and we know that, right? So people know it. What is important on the ranking, if it's reliable, right? So if there are rankings that are reliable internationally, and I don't know that, so it's as one of the decision makers, if I don't know any ranking, it's a problem. So when, as a marketeer, what I do is, if the ranking doesn't have that much awareness, but I want to use it because it's a reliable ranking, I need to advertise the ranking. And so this ranking is good because it uses criteria A, B, and C. It's used in 100 countries around the globe and is a reference for companies like General Electric, General Mills, Unilever, Nestle, etc. But I don't know, I think it would be, in my opinion, it would be more important what we talked about earlier, the references, the networking, the being exposed to the practices of the law firm on those ideas that we talked about. For me, I think that is that it's maybe more important. But if there is a ranking, it must be reliable. And it's not easy to find reliable rankings for anything. I try to do that for dishwasher products, none. For food, very hard. Let's see the ranking of the best seasoning. It's very hard to make good rankings. I don't know if I. Yeah. Yeah. We do that. So industry, they do that. They pay lots of money on the magazines that talk to the trade, that talk to our customers, and they win big prizes. Our customers, they laugh at the ranking, at that ranking, but they do create their own ranking. And on their ranking, I want to be first, right?
Vanessa?
Oh, online, social media, and etc. Maybe, look, I think it's important. Maybe not for me. I come from the generation that would call people to talk about. But the next generations, they are so much in social media that I think it would be a must even for you, right? So I think it's important. The social media. So I do use social media, especially LinkedIn, to search for talents or to connect different talents. Is there any equivalent for in the legal world? Is there anything equivalent to LinkedIn that is very specific? Or no? Everybody, yeah, everybody use LinkedIn. Yeah. Yeah. Then, if LinkedIn is a reference, there are multiple techniques to be successfully marketed in LinkedIn. So maybe that's a good source of, a good point of investment on the social media world for you to look at. And do you have agencies? Do you have so maybe it's not even ethical, right? I don't know, right? But do you, yeah, is there any, because if you don't have the possibility of using advertising agencies, but you can use PR agencies, right? You can use PR agencies. PR agencies are specialists in how to use social media. So everything that, yes, yeah, I know. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But there are still places where you could do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And for that, for countries with lots of restrictions, in Brazil is the case, right? Brazil is the case. Yeah, social media can be very helpful. Even so, okay. So in some countries, you wouldn't be allowed as a lawyer to have your profile in LinkedIn. Get to that point. Yeah, then it's very tough. Then it's very, very difficult. Then it's word of mouth. Then it's old school type of calling and making the right contacts. Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's why I think the ideas that we were talking about on the round tables, because that's not only marketing, right? It's really good. It's a service. The way I see Bain and McKinsey doing that is also like a service. Clearly, when they get into those round tables, they take the best people around the globe to talk about the topics, and the discussions are really great. They're impressive. And that's great, right? So it's that we can always find ethical and added value way of doing it. When it's possible to do social media, I will do it, because the next CEOs or directors, they will use it much better than I do.
Boss, you have a...
Yeah. So, by explaining us the criteria that you use in legal systems in the morning, and you can tell us about KLA, their policy on diversity, inclusion, and gender equality. In what way do you take into account those maybe more secondary?
Yeah, well, it's just starting. In our case, so two things about us. So first, General Mills Brazil has been ranked number 6 by Great Place to Work in ethnical and race care with people, right? So it's something that we value a lot. and we were honored to be such high ranked on that. And so we basically create a lot of awareness, discussion, and education within the company to guarantee that people really take that very seriously and deeply. And so I didn't ask it, but what I started seeing my sourcing team doing is including those questions on the questionnaires for new suppliers. So it's just started. I was surprised that they included. I'm doing a process now to hire a consultant company, and they came up. I saw the question. I like it. So are we? So is that something mandatory that came from the headquarters? What is happening here? No, we are just starting to make it good. I think it will happen. I think it will happen, especially for big companies. And I would be prepared to do that. I have a friend that works in the private equity sector, and that is happening big time. So Goldman Sachs, all the big banks in the US are, when any kind of partnership that they establish, they are making the question, and they are sometimes requiring statistics to have ready to show to require that. So I think it's just starting. I would get ready. We are getting ready because it's something that is coming to stay. And imagine in a country like Brazil, where 56% of the population is Black. But in the São Paulo University, which is, I think today is the best university in Brazil, there is only 1.2% of professors that are Black. It's huge. Brazil, the level of inequality is terrible. Well, we can, and looks like it's not Brazil. Look at this room. Right? So it's coming. Let's get ready. And it will be good for our businesses, and it will be good for the society as well. Okay.
For international companies, particularly in our region, in terms of the influence of other autarchic countries, the influence of multinational companies, what they have to bring into our countries in terms of policy, public policy matters. Are you, to some extent, aware? Is part of the agenda of the companies? How do you work around that?
Mm-hmm. Where are you from? From Chile? Yapo. So General Mills, one of the pillars of our strategy, global strategy, is being a force for good. Being a force for good means take care of the planet, take care of the people, take care of the communities. And by doing that, we need to, what the expectations that come with being a force for good is influence, is positive influence on things that we see the need to change in the society. So yes, the way that we do that, at least in Brazil, and I think it's the same in the US, I think is less lobby and more leading by example. And I don't see any problem in doing lobby. When I say lobby, it's yeah, right. Everybody understand it. And so I think we do that by leading by examples, and we do have the necessary discussions with politicians on things that we see room for improvement. But the initiatives that we take as example to the society are initiatives that we try to communicate and have a high reach of people looking at it. Let me give you an example. Regenerative agriculture. Everybody heard about regenerative agriculture? So basically we have been talking about protecting the environment, and I will summarize, and I'm not a specialist of regenerative agriculture, but what regenerative agriculture does is not only protects, it brings back to the soil carbon that was removed from agricultural bad practices, pollution, etc. The way that we try to do that influence, is by having scientists that are specialists in regenerative agriculture, and they develop tools, technologies that can use regenerative agriculture for the main crops that we source from around the globe. We widespread that knowledge instead of keeping it to ourselves. We could use it as a competitive advantage. We could do some IP with it, but we don't do it. For those cases, we try to spread the expertise and the knowledge, because we believe that is important for the society. And we try to do that in case of diversity and inclusion. I proudly talk about the ranking. We communicate that. We in Brazil, we are part of a movement for racial equity. It's called MOVER. And one of the key pillars of that movement that currently has more than, it's 47 companies, 47 of the biggest companies in Brazil from all sectors. One of the key pillars is to change society. It's to guarantee that we provide education, is to guarantee that we provide real chances, and we do that statistically. So we are measuring how many positions we are creating for Black people in leadership positions in our companies. And we are taking that, and we have commitment to grow that year after year. That's the way that we believe we can influence on the uncertainties, on the big discussions we are having on the society. So that's more or less the way that we operate. In terms of government, influence with the president of Brazil, or the, we are not, we are more low key. So we wouldn't be in Brasilia, have time trying to change too many things. Only things that look totally off. We have regulation, food regulation, that no sense. That is the kind of thing that, no, it doesn't make sense. I don't know if I covered the topics that you were thinking.
Thank you so much, Waldemar. I think we're running a little bit late. We could be talking for another hour if we could.
I saw more
but
one.
I think, yes, please, go ahead.
Back to law firm selection. Stepping a little bit aside from criteria. Can you tell us a little bit about the process to select law firms, not only in Brazil, but worldwide? would general management from headquarters be involved? Is there any independence from the CLO or the CEO in the jurisdiction to select, or depends on the, matter that is going to be selected?
In our case, and globally, that's led by the legal team in the headquarters. One interesting thing, the legal team in Brazil has a dotted line to me, but a straight line of report to the headquarters. And so they make the decision. And as I have a very good relationship with them, as I'm a smart guy, right? They may ask me, but it's totally informal. And because they know that my wife is a lawyer, right? But it's informal. The decision-making is theirs. But for local companies, public companies, I think that the CEO, I heard that the CEO does have a right to approve what is the legal firm that they're going to hire. Because these are all very experienced people that run into so many issues on their lives, and they come to know. I am coming to know a lot more about the different specialization of the different legal law firms, and I sometimes can give an opinion on it. But I think that local business, they do have the CEO, the CFO too. CEO and CFO. And why the CFO? In case of Brazil, because taxes are easy in Brazil. Right, Henrique? Easy, right? Easy. Okay, so those two ways.
Could you give us your impression on labor claims in Brazil? As I'm a labor attorney, I wanted to listen from you. How do you feel about labor claims in the country with the larger number of claims filed every year? Just to give you an idea of the number of claims filed in 1 year. In the year of 2017, we had 4.2 million labor claims filed against employers in the country. So we have a very specific and very litigious environment. And I wanted to hear from you, what is your impression?
Yeah, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare, especially when you live in an environment with so much transformation. When I say transformation, what I mean is plant closures, distribution centers closures, or moves. We have recently announced that we're gonna move our second biggest plant from one state in the south of Brazil to a state in the east of Brazil, more in the east middle of Brazil, more strategically located. Unfortunately, we are terminating more than 700 people in that plant. And 700 risks, right? So the way we deal with that is, well, again, best practices and learnings from the past. And we are now more confident the way that we are doing these ones. We are first treating people well. Second, legally very strong on the way that we decided to do it. But if these things that we are doing, they don't work well, we may be in the next years facing 700 lawsuits, right? It's terrible. And it is what happened to us in some of the previous shutdowns we did, and it's not with us. It's normal, right? It's Brazil. And there is a bias when judging those cases, and that makes it a real nightmare. The problem is many companies, so maybe most of the companies, they don't treat people well. That is true. That's clearly not true for ourselves, but we suffer from the environment that we live. But it's a nightmare. I don't know if that was the.
Thank you. That's perfect, because one thing that you mentioned is key, and my feeling of somebody who went to court so many times defending companies in a country with a protective bias for employees is that many guys who were suing employers, my impression is that they were in court because they felt like they were mistreated, they were not respected. The way that the company handled the termination process was impolite, sometimes showing some gratitude. I'm not saying that simply paying something extra, but sometimes a nice talk, a polite conversation may prevent litigation, and that's accurate. And the main reason why we have so many claims in Brazil, so many labor claims, is because we don't have an extrajudicial agreement that may guarantee us a full release of rights. So even a highly skilled professional in the highest position in a company, the simple signature of a release agreement will not prevent a labor claim. So it is tough to prevent, but the way you treat people is the number one way to prevent litigation.
Yeah, on the top of the payment, so the value that we give them that is above market standards. So we are providing extension of the health insurance, which is very important for people in Brazil, as our public health insurance is terrible, right? So very important we do that. We hire companies that help with outplacement. In this case, 700 people. We're gonna have outplacement service for these people that will be terminated. And the way we communicate, it's very careful. So always with somebody in person, because we see so many cases of online big termination cases. So always somebody in person, and we follow up. And in this case, we announce it 10 months in advance that we're going to shut down the plant. And that is giving us time and to manage things very closely, very close with the employees, to guarantee that everybody is feeling as good as it can be in a tough situation like that. But it's really important that we do that.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Lindsay, she's concerned about the time. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
so
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. And Waldemar will be joining us for lunch too. Try not to overwhelm him.
I'm used it too, so don't worry.
Sit right next to you. But thank you. This was really great. We're going to be meeting downstairs in the lobby in like 12 minutes. But also remember, this afternoon, we're going directly to our afternoon tours. Please just quickly and wear sunscreen. Thank you.